The more you take, you consume or you take home to have somebody sample at home, the less we have to deal with afterwards. So please help yourself. But I would like to talk to you a little bit, and then I'm going to turn it over to Monica and let her fill your head full of information. And when we get to that point, if you need a pen or something so that you can take notes, I will get some out. I forgot to get them out earlier. And I owe, excuse me, everyone who's new here tonight, and we do have quite a few new faces tonight, an apology, because usually there's a sign out there that points to this building, and there's a sign on the door so that you know where to go. And I totally spaced putting them out today. So my apologies. I'm glad you found us, but that was my fault. So you have your little booklets. Inside, one side is going to be recipes. It's all the recipes that you sampled, plus a few extras that I threw in there that sounded good, but I never got around to trying out. And then the other side has health information. And basically, the only one I'm going to really talk to you about tonight is the very top one. There's a thing in here on ways to use butternut squash, and you'll find that there's a recipe in there for a cheese that's made with butternut squash. It sounded really good, but I found it too late to experiment with it. There's also some information about spices and how to organize your spices so that you can keep track of what's good and what's not. And then there's some more information on vegan diet in there, and there is also a nice little one from Forks Over Knives on what to do when your loved ones aren't on board with a plant-based diet. I have one of those, so I can relate. If you were here last time, you can remember that I was saying I was having a hard time finding agar. And they were correct. You can get agar at Brolam's in their produce department. They have a section where you can do spices by the amount that you want. And so I was able to get some there. But I did finally, and I don't know why I couldn't find it the first time, Amazon does have the agar flakes. And you will notice that there's at least one recipe in there that does use the flakes, and that was that. I like the flakes. They don't take quite as long to dissolve, I've discovered after using I think the reason my jack cheese didn't work like it should have last time was because I didn't cook the agar long enough. It takes a good 5 minutes to get it to dissolve, which normal gelatin will do much faster than that. In fact, and M's gel, which is what I used to use, just pour boiling water over it and it worked. But I was happy that I finally found flakes because I do like flakes. Monica likes the powder better. Personal preference. They both are the same substance. Anything else weird that I wanted to talk to you about besides? This article just totally blew my mind. Yeah, it's the second time I've read the same information. I saw somebody had posted something on Facebook about cheese, and I read it and went, really? I didn't know that. And so when I saw this on Forks Over Knives, I went, oh, I've got to, this is an MD who's written this article. And he's talking about why it's so hard to give up cheese. When I became a vegetarian, it was really easy to give up most of what I ate. That's not a big deal. Cheese, though, partially because as Adventists we like to make casseroles and put cheese in them. Cheese has always been a hard one. I keep telling myself, okay, I'm going to stop eating cheese. I know it's not good for me. I'm going to stop eating it. So I just buy my husband the cheese he wants, and I try not to buy mine, but then every now and then I'll be in the store and go, ooh. And the next thing I know, I've taken on a good cheese home again. So this first part about it is just the things you would normally expect. We like things that are salty, and most cheeses are salty. And we like that nice, salty, creamy flavor. It just appeals to us. But when you get onto the back part of this article, which is almost all of the back part, it talks about casomorphins. And this was something that I did not know. And this is science. This isn't somebody's weird idea. The caseins that are in milk break down in a certain way. But it's an unusual protein because it has more than one way it can break down. It can break down into individual little pieces, or it can do strings. And when it does strings, that's when it becomes casomorphines. And they're actually related to morphine, okay, which is an opiate. And what do we know about opiates?
Addictive.
They're addictive. And they did this article. I'm not going to try and explain it all to you because I won't do as good a job as if you read it for yourself. But when I read this, I went, oh, now I know why my 41-year-old son, who I call a giant rat, goes through cheese like he does. Because he eats. I could not, when he was a kid growing up, if the cheese package was still sealed, it was safe. But once I opened the package, it was gone. And he's still like that as an adult. He goes through more cheese. And I'm going to show him this article, and he's just going to go, yeah, Mom. But I wish he would pay attention to it, because we know that the fats that are in cheese are not good for our hearts. They hurt, our vascular system. Yet we can't seem to stop eating them. And there's a reason. There's actually science behind it. We're addicted to it. And we'll say we're addicted to it, but we don't realize that there's actually a chemical addiction to it, which is kind of scary in a way. But I hope you will read it. And you can do with it what you want. But I found it really interesting because I'd never seen the science behind it before. And considering what the rate of heart disease and those kinds of things are in the United States, it's definitely something to think about. How often do we eat cheese? I'm going to try and get my husband to read it, because his sandwich always has a slice of cheese on it. I just have to fix him things besides sandwiches, I guess, or something else so that he'll eat something besides sandwiches. But the whole point behind our cooking classes are to learn about healthier alternatives for people to eat. And last time when we had our class last month, this was one of the things that people wanted to know about. And since I knew that Monica knew how to do the cultured ones, I know how to make the cashew cheeses, and I have to apologize to Verna because I didn't make my favorite one tonight, because was doing all these others. I didn't get my Agar didn't show up till last night, so I didn't get my jack cheese made, because that is my absolute favorite. That one I make for myself all the time. But there are lots of good alternatives to the things that are not healthy for us. Do you need a jar of Rejuvelect that's in the refrigerator?
Yeah.
Do you want to show them?
I went and forgot my honey.
I'll check and see if we've got some rattling around here. Not sure we do. But she's going to take you through the process that she does. Because, like I said, the ones that I do are follow a recipe and the recipe style. And that's the kind of recipes I like. Hers have more steps to them, but they also have lots of times a better flavor or a better texture. So, do you need some honey for something?
And the yogurt.
Oh.
I totally spaced.
I'll see if I can scratch them up in the kitchen.
Okay. And you said you had a hot plate, right?
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Okay. Are you all done?
Yep, I am.
Okay. Get set up. Okay. Ooh. Maybe. Might have to.
I'll get an extension cord.
Okay. Thanks, dear.
Lorraine, she can use this one.
What?
She can use this one.
You don't need it?
No.
Okay.
All right. I'll look for it.
Before I put it in here.
Sorry. Okay. So culturing. Your cultures, are any of you familiar with what Rejuvenac is? No. Okay. It's super exciting. It's amazing stuff. Your Rejuvenac, and I forgot my quinoa too, so I'm just going to walk you through it. You take about a cup of quinoa, and you take your mason jar, you put it in, you fill probably about an inch. You want to rinse your quinoa, and you let it sit overnight, like 24 hours. You soak your quinoa. The next day, you rinse it really well. And make sure you are using boiled water, because there's lots of little microbes in your water, and you cool down, obviously cool down, because you don't want to kill the microbes. My first batch, I used just filtered water, and there was enough little microbes in there that I spoiled my whole, actually I made a double batch of Rejuvenac, and I spoiled my double batch of Rejuvenac because I didn't put boiled water. It's much more sensitive than your sourdough starter, your established sourdough starter. So you soak it, you drain it, you rinse it really well. Make sure when you rinse your quinoa, you rinse it till the water is clear. You put a lid on. I just put a lid on my jar. They say because they want it to breathe, but because our air is so dusty, I just put a mason jar lid on it. You can use something, a lot of your books, if you look it up, will say use cheesecloth. I found that cheesecloth attracts all the little stuff that you don't want in all the little microbes that you don't want in your cultures, so don't use cheesecloth. I have used tulle fabric. It's fine enough, but it doesn't attract all the microbes, especially once you get done soaking it, you're going to sprout it. So you're going to want to rinse your quinoa 2 to 4 times a day to keep those microbes out, and it keeps it, because you want to get it to the sprouting stage without letting any of those little microbes and nasty stuff grow on your grain. So rinse it 2 to 4 times a day. It takes 1 to 3 days, depending on the ambient temperature of your house, to start sprouting them. And you'll see on the little grains, you'll see a little tail kind of pop out. You can sprout it for another day or 2 if you want, until you see a little green sprout kind of start poking out. I like to get to that point. That takes about 3 days. Once again, rinse it till the water's clear. And then you split it in half, so you do a half cup for each mason jar and fill it with purified water. And you let it sit for, I think it's about 3 to 5 days, and it gets this really pretty, kind of a yellowish, milky color. You want to make sure your lid is on tight too. And you'll notice when you check it, you can check it every 2 or 3 days, every day or 2. You'll notice all the bubbles, all the little microbes in your quinoa will just go whoosh and kind of rush up to the top. My first problem is, instead of this beautiful lemony yellow color, it turned kind of grayish. So watch the color. If you get kind of just a really light grayish color and you get lots of bubbles up at the top, take the lid off, smell it. If it smells off, dump the whole thing. It's not worth it. You will smell, it has just this light lemon flavor, lemon scent. You can taste it a little bit after, once it starts getting this milky stage. You'll see on the tops of your grains, it will get kind of a milky substance on the top of your grains in the water. It's okay to kind of jiggle it, shake it, get it kind of mixed, get those microbes going in all of the water. And then once it gets done, once it finishes culturing, I use a reusable coffee filter. I think Family Dollar has the reusable coffee filters for, I think they're $1 a piece, super cheap. And it's fine enough to where it doesn't let any of the particles through, but it lets the water filter out really nicely, and put it in a clean jar. Now, your Rejuvelec is full of probiotics. Amazing, amazing stuff. I love it. You can add it to smoothies. You can add it to if you're making any of the cheeses. Like I said, with the Munster cheese, instead of using water or lemon juice, I use Rejuvelec instead, and it just keeps culturing. You can make a simple cashew cheese with kind of like you do with yogurt. Pasteurize it, and I'll show you how to pasteurize. And then just use your Rejuvelec in there, mix a little bit of Rejuvelec into your cashew cream, and it'll kind of culture over, 24 hours. The culturing process also unlocks a broad spectrum vitamin B. It unlocks vitamin C and vitamin E from your grains. It's just so nutritious. It's just a nutritious powerhouse. I love it. And then you, like I said, you can use that for pretty much anything. You can drink just a little bit before, kind of to start your day, kind of not really breaking your fast in the morning, but before you, like half an hour before you have food. If you're having digestive issues, it helps. Those probiotics help heal your gut. Super easy, but be very, very, very careful and use your purified water. Big time. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
When you rinse it, are you using purified water to rinse?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's what I was clarification.
Always, always, always use purified water when you're working with Rejuvelec. It's so easy to get those little microbes in there. And that's another reason why I use a solid lid instead of a sprouting lid, to keep those microbes out. It's not so much a big deal if you're sprouting your grains for like microgreens or just sprouts, because you're rinsing and it just grows, and you still want to use purified water, but because you're sprouting your grains and then filling it with water and culturing the water, you definitely always want to use purified water. Any other? Okay. Your yogurts. There's a lot of options when it comes to non-dairy yogurts. Cashew is one of the better ones. A lot of your recipes will say to squeeze out the pulp or the meat out of your milk. But that adds, if you have a high-powered blender and you blend it long enough and you soak your grains or you soak your nuts and your seeds, you really don't need to filter out the whatever's left, the flesh, because it gets fine enough. The key is to soak them. One of the new ones that I've been playing with is oats. And I found a few recipes that use oat as part of the base. And what I found is but they have you use a nut milk bag to strain out kind of the fibrous parts. And you don't need to, if you soak your rolled oats overnight, you don't need to filter it out because it breaks it down enough and it softens the holes enough that it just blends right in. I love my yogurt. Huh?
Marshall's bringing you honey.
Oh, tell me, thank you. Well, I guess I'll get to town. Thank you. I really love my yogurt maker. This is the one I have. It's a Cuisinart or Cuisine. It's a Euro Cuisine. It keeps the temperature fairly stable, and I can go for however long I want. But we also have to remember that people have been making yogurt for thousands of years, and it's nothing new, and they didn't have these fancy machines. It's not a big deal. I actually have a baby blanket that I throw in the dryer before I got this, or if I'm making double batches and I have extra. I have a baby blanket that I just throw in the dryer and get it nice and toasty warm, and then wrap it once I get done mixing everything together, and then just leave it sit for 10 hours. I found the yogurts that I make, the cashew yogurt and the pumpkin and cashew were both cultured for 10. I found that with non-dairy yogurts, even though a lot of recipes will say culture it for 6 to 8 hours, if I culture it for that extra 2 hours and go for a full 10, in those last 2 hours, the probiotics really take off, and they use up all of the sugar in it, and it gets that nice sharp tart flavor. And then you can add extra sugar or extra sweetener if you want, but you get more benefits if you leave it for that full 10 hours. What do you think? There's a lot you can play with. You can play with your different recipes in your book or in your packets. I think I added 4 or 5 different combinations. The one thing that I found is you can add a little bit of cane sugar if you want. What I found though is that the cultures like honey better. So they'll use it up and they'll grow better with honey. I don't know what it is, but they like honey a lot better. And of course, I mean, it's a little bit healthier than cane sugar. And it just does better. By the time 10, if you're on a low sugar diet, the honey, of course, the honey is good. Tell me, thank you. But that full 10 hours, you don't have to worry about that added sugar because the microbes, the cultures, it eats that up. And I don't know if all of you tried the 2 yogurts, you can test the difference between the cashew oat yogurt was only cultured for 7 hours, whereas the other 2 I cultured for the full 10, and you can definitely taste the flavor difference of that extra 3 hours. It uses up all that extra sugar, and you don't have to worry about that sugar spike. Okay, so high-powered blender. For this one, and like I said before, pumpkin seed coagulates like oat milk or like tofu. So be careful with what you mix with the pumpkin seeds. But the oat milk, for some reason, it helps keep it from coagulating. So that is what and I already pre-soaked these, so I'm gonna add these directly in. I have these here. So this particular recipe, I have a cup of pumpkin seed and a cup of oats. And I'm going to add, what did I do? There's some water. I'm going to add 4 cups of filtered water. And usually I have home filtered water, and I was running late and just grabbed one of these. Just make sure, yep, okay. Okay, I'm gonna blend this really, hold on. It's nice and creamy and fine. I'm going to here. Made a mess. There's the- I need fresh towels. That's okay.
What's the name of this you're doing?
Pardon?
What's it called?
This is the oat. This is oat and pumpkin seed yogurt.
Yogurt.
Yeah, this is yogurt. And you'll see the textures change when you pasteurize your yogurts or your milks. Highly, highly recommend. I have in years past not worried about the pasteurization process, but once again, you want to encourage the healthy microbes to, and the healthy bacteria to grow, and not the bad stuff. And there's always little microbes here and there that are going to be growing. Another thing about when you're with the Rejuva, like when you rinse your water, that water still has a lot of really good microbes in it as it goes through the filtering process and the sprouting. It is fantastic plant food. So don't throw your water out. When you're rinsing, just come over and dump it on your plants. Now what I'm doing, what trick I found, when I'm making yogurt, is if my pot has a little bit of water in it, it's wet, it doesn't stick as bad. It makes it a lot easier to keep stuff off the bottom. So you're gonna dump this in. And you can see how liquidy and how just milky that is. You are the best, thank you. That's gonna change because those starches from the oats are gonna really come together. One of the big things, whisk it non-stop because it will stick. It will stick to the bottom. You can already feel just that quick. Now, there's a couple different cultures that I really like. Well, one more than the other. For many years, I bought the Cultures for Health. They used to use rice maltodextrin. And so heads up, if you have a soy allergy, they have changed their recipe. They now add soy milk and a whole bunch of other ingredients in it, which I'm really disappointed because I didn't realize, and I couldn't find anything on their website about them changing the recipe. But then I stumbled across something called Yogurt. It's by Know How Foods, and you can either get little packets, they're a little bit spendy, or for not much more, you can get this little container. Now this little container only has a teaspoon in there, but this makes up to like 15 gallons. You'll need a teeny tiny, just a few granules of your culture to add to this. You can double these recipes if you want, and just have more containers. If you're you can use mason jars. Once this is done, you can pour it into mason jars, or these little bowls have red lids. I think they're like 5 or 6 cup, maybe 7 cup bowls. Winco has them for like $5 or $6. Not that expensive, and I love those bowls because they fit into my yogurt maker so nicely. And then when I have extra, I just pour it into a mason jar and set it on top, and just wrap it with that towel, and it does just fine. As this is heating up, you can kind of see it starting to thicken. And keep in mind when you're making your yogurts, it may look really milky at first, but I promise you it will thicken up. It'll thicken up really nice. And just whisk, whisk, whisk. Keep it going. Takes a few minutes, but it's worth it. I've had a few times when I wasn't pasteurizing my yogurts. I've had a few times to grow up, waking up in the morning to a pink hue on the top of my yogurt. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of resources. Don't risk it. Just pasteurize. So you're gonna cook this. Pasteurization needs to be about 160, 165 degrees to 185 typically, and you want to hold it for 15 seconds, which is not that long. By the time you get it transferred to a cold bath and you start stirring it, it's pasteurized, it's good. It's starting to get there. And again, it unlocks so much of the nutrients. It makes the calcium in the nuts, it makes it much more easily digestible. Your raw nuts are good, but when you start culturing, it's amazing how the little microbes just unlock a lot of your nutrition, a lot of the minerals and the vitamins that are a little bit harder for your body to digest. Are there any questions or any thoughts?
What was the name of the culture that you put in?
Yogurt, and I found them on Amazon.
E-U-G.
E-U-G-U-R-T, Yogurt. Like I said, I mean, it's Know How Foods is the brand. I love them.
Is that K-N-O-W?
Pardon?
No, like K-N-O-W?
Yeah, like Know How, like knowledge, Know How. And they use rice maltodextrin. And the yogurt, the Know How Foods uses rice maltodextrin. And they don't add all the junk, all the extra stuff to the cultures that you have to kind of be mindful